Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to the Moana Nui podcast. Tonight we are once again celebrating Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Month. Tonight, for episode 49 of our show, we have Kanoelani Davis. But before we bring Kanoelani on, let me introduce myself. My name is Moana McAdams. I am the founder and host of the Moana Nui podcast, author of The Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea children's book series, editor for the Wild Card Chronicles comic book series, publisher at Burning Spear Comics, and champion and lover of the Indigenous communities. Tonight, as always, I am joined by my wonderful co host, Dana.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this amazing episode that we're about to have. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dana. I am a cosplay, event, and staff con photographer. You've seen some of my photos with MomoCon, Anime Week in Atlanta, Dragon Con, and even with DC Comics. I'm also an event planner and a voice actor and so much more. And I'm now going to hand it over to my beautiful co-host, the lovely Moana.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you again for tuning in to another show. As I mentioned, our guest tonight is Kanoelani Davis. She is the CEO, founder, and owner of PoMahina Designs, which is a culture conscious fashion line based in the island of Molokai. PoMahina Designs is an essence imbued with culture, tradition, and aloha, while also being infused in contemporary fashion. As the founder and designer, Kanoelani originally started PoMahina Designs to help her children and students retain the names of particular elements that were associated with Hina, the mother of Molokai. What originally started as shirts and drawstring bags dyed in natural indigenous dyes soon became hats, clothing, and accessories. Recently, Kanoelani also started Manabombs LLC, which focuses on empowerment and mental health and well being, something that we can all use some help with,
Mhm.
especially over the last year. Here,
Yes.
she shares life experiences as a single parent and her struggles through podcasts and focused events. Mana Bombs also focuses on one practices of ho'amana, a form of healing that goes back pre ho'oponopono. As co founder of Ho'akamana, a nonprofit organization, her mission is to assist single Indigenous parents with emotional well being and creating resources and opportunities to strengthen families.
Mhm.
So, without further ado, let us bring Kanoelani on, and we're so grateful to have her with us tonight. Aloha,
Yes.
Kanoelani.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Listening to you read my bio was just like,
Who's that?
really?
Everybody says that.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it's good to have, your accomplishments, hearing from somebody else's perspective because there's still things that you did, but sometimes, especially us in this community, we really humble, yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, you don't need to tell all my stuff,
Exactly. I think that's the hardest part is just hearing it. It's just like, ugh, we do it because we do it. And that's
Yeah.
enough for us. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so let's start with the Pico or the origin story. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and what your childhood was like.
Oh, well, I'll introduce myself. Aloha mai kako. Aloha, everybody. My name is Kanoelani Davis. I come from the island of Molokai, um, and would love to start with a really quick introduction of my islands and the elements here through chant. Ho ili hoga boa hina la ila I abo I he hea o ka alohi. Alohi ka la maga higi na buka ana I ka ige a ka puupo I upopo I na lua ka na loa. Hoa ia ka noea I ka mako. E ola mako ina wahine, wahine akina ui ka ana. Aloha mai e, aloha mai e. Aloha mai kako. Mahalo for allowing me to share that with you. I wanted to introduce you to my island and the way I see it, the way I know it. The names of our elements, our mountains, our oceans, our waterways, our ancestors. Always recognizing that we, each and every one of us, are the center of our own universe. And so recognizing the cardinal points, northeast, southwest, above, below, inside, and out. So mahalo for allowing me to share.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it's a huge foundation into the reason why PoMahina came to be. And so PoMahina has its real essence comes from the connection to our culture, to the connection of the names of elements that have, were lost throughout
Mhm.
time, uh, through colonialism, through missionaries, through even just through generations and generations and modern day shifts, we forget.
Mhm.
And why? Oh, you guys get to hear chickens in my background. We're live, everybody. Welcome to my world. Um,
Sounds like my cousin's backyard.
they're everywhere. Can't get away from the chickens. Um, but yeah, so just it's really an awakening of old names. And why is that important? Is because our language was taken away, our practices were taken away, our lands, our aina, it was taken away, our belief systems were taken away and or influenced away from who we are as people. And it was purposeful to go through modern day shifts to release you and I and all of those who came before us of
Mhm.
these memories. And I truly, deeply believe that we can find an integration of accepting modern contemporary aspects of where we are today, but we should never forget.
Absolutely.
And so the designs, right, so I am actually a graphic designer. I was labeled a fashion designer as I continued on, as PoMahina grew, because a graphic designer is not a fashion designer.
Mhm.
But it was the artwork on these wearable arts that held the essence of the names, the places, so that we do not forget.
Mhm.
And it's there's days where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just take it. Okay, fashion, I don't have time to educate you right now, we're gonna go with it. You're in this area, this is where you're gonna be. But when I have these intimate and meaningful conversations like this, uh, it's really important for me to decipher the two, because there are fashion designers who go to school for years and sacrifice to become fashion designers, and
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
have the honor to hold that title, whereas I have graphic designs under my belt and I hold that title. And through that, I'm able to share the elemental names and artwork on the pieces. So that's a little bit about PoMahina Designs, how that starts, and really the drive and the motivation that it's not a trend for me.
Mhm.
Um, it will continue. It will always continue, whether I'm making $100 in my account this month and I'm having to find like 5 jobs, or I'm making millions. It will always continue because it's beyond just money,
Mhm.
recognition. It's beyond that. So yeah, that's it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Now, of course, we all have our origins and people that we tie so deeply too. And your grandfather was a master of Chinese and Hawaiian art forms to include karate, kung fu, and the most obscure Hawaiian practice, olua. How would you explain the art of lua to our listeners, and what role did it play in traditional Hawaiian culture?
So I guess the only way to well, first off, I want to honor my grandfather, Francis Lealoha Wong Kahu Sifu Olohe. He is my foundation, in which a lot of what I know today is from him, as well as my grandmother, his wife. As much as she will probably deny it, I learned a lot from her too. But really, Lua, so I can only speak from my lineage and my perspective. And the reason why I say that is because when I was in my late 20s, maybe mid 20s, I didn't realize Lua was taught other places. And so when I found this out, I was like, I need to connect with these people so I can continue the traditions, make sure that I'm staying on point, checking myself, and so I reached out to other Olohe. I reached out to other Haumana. And when I shared with them my Ike, my knowledge of what Lua was, they were like, that's not Lua. And so for a very long time, maybe for about a year after that, maybe even 2 years, I kind of questioned everything I knew.
Mm.
Like decades of work, I questioned. I saw the magic. I saw the challenges. I saw the successes. I saw what it could do. And I really questioned it. And I questioned my grandfather. Like, was he selling something that wasn't real? Was he teaching us stuff that wasn't real? And then one day I just was like, no. How would you know what our line is?
Mm-hmm.
How? I respect your line, but I will never, ever again from here on, I'll ever question my lineage. I know the effects. I know the power, and I know the discipline behind it. That which I will never abuse, because I've seen things many will never see. And so in the way we learn with Lua, my grandfather taught martial arts, but when he taught martial arts, he also taught healing. His methodology is, if you can hurt it or kill it, you better be able to heal it or bring it back to life. What he was really teaching us was, don't. Your first step is don't use it, because you're responsible. And so he was only able to rise up, I believe 5 or 6. It was a small number of us that were able to learn Lua. He didn't teach the masses. He only taught those who were able and ready. And why I say that is because, like you had mentioned, we're mixed martial arts. I didn't know what mixed martial arts was till I got older, but I guess we were mixed martial arts, right? So we were karate was the first, and we had to go through all of our belts. Once you've gone through karate, you went through kung fu. After kung fu, then you learned tai chi, qigong. You also learn lomi lomi. You learn the anatomy. You learn pressure points. And once you've gone through all the work, memorize every tendon, ligament, organ, meridian, you've done all that. Now you are ready for Lua. And so, unlike a lot of the other Lua Pa out there, we only learned one weapon. That same weapon that we used for healing. So it was a duality. So our weapon of choice was kui. And what a kui is a staff. All it is a stick. But the stick was of many sizes, from a small toothpick to a large walking staff. And when I had brought that up to other Alohe, they did. Kui is not a weapon. There's no such weaponry. And in that time I was questioning it, but we learned every aspect of it. And so the thing about our weapon happens to be, again, one for defense, but if you could use it for healing as well. They had two aspects to it. We had a ku and a hina in our one thing. Many of the weapons that you see today will only have one purpose. And so that experience has been very, very interesting. And again, the one thing I gained from that is discipline, humility, responsibility, and the fact that just because you know doesn't mean you have to. And so Lua, or martial arts in general, growing up with my grandfather, has really helped shape the way I look at things. More so now that I'm older and in my lower 40s. I wasn't so much when I was much younger. I was punchy and crazy. It wasn't until I had kids that I really calmed down and recognized, like, go jail or stay home with your kids and make food. I'll stay home with the kids and make food and dinner. So that really shifted a lot of the necessity of these practices. I think I used to hear, the master never has to use his skill sets. So, yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
No, I find it so fascinating because like Lua is one of the our cultural practices that I didn't really know about until like recently. And I just any part of our history or culture that I don't know about, I'm like, oh, I need to find, I need to talk story with somebody who can really speak about it and not just reading a book, right? Because the downside of what I'm finding in doing research of our culture is that you got to read the right books, right? Like some of the books is like not from our lens, right? So lots of misinterpretations, of our belief systems and things like that. So mahalo nui for sharing that, because I know some people, I've talked to some people where they wouldn't even want to talk about it to anybody else because it's so kapu, or they view it as sacred, right? So mahalo for sharing just a little bit about your tutu's legacy. Let's see. Okay, so we talked a little bit about your tutu, and clearly, culture is really important to you. You incorporate it into everything that is your being because that is part of your identity. How did you like figure out how you wanted to incorporate it into your designs, your clothing, and when you come up with a new design, what is most important to you before you feel like it's ready to go out into the world?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because I'm going to start off with the fact that I have several hats. I work in social justice. I work in substance abuse prevention and intervention. I teach art classes. I teach cultural art classes. And I have PoMahina and I have manabombs. In one's eye, they would say these are like completely different things. In my eyes, they're all the same. And so really, how do I put myself into my work? I am my work. I don't have to change anything at all. I take all the lessons I've ever learned, all the fails as an individual, as a person, all the mistakes I've made, all the guilt that I've held, all the trauma I've felt, all the rises, all the successes, all the triumphs I've had. And I find my foundation in all the cultural practices that I am familiar with, that was gifted to me. And so that it for me, it's really easy to walk into some place and be very comfortable because I don't have to fake the funk.
Mhm.
I am me. And you're going to hear a lot of consistencies in the way I do things, the way I think,
Mhm.
right? And I utilize my own basic experiences as my guidance. I don't use somebody else's experiences to guide
Right.
me. I don't read the book, get the instruction, and know how to do something to guide me. Um, Probably why half the screws on my chairs over there are loose because I probably put them on wrong. but but then I learn, right? I mean, that's how I learn. I learn through failure. My best friend is challenges and failures. And so through those experiences, it's really easy to put all of these things and incorporate it. And its culture is just natural. It's I cannot separate it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Like I can't
Yeah.
separate culture. Like this is Hawaiian. No, this is me.
Yeah.
If it's Hawaiian, then cool.
Mhm.
But it is me. It is me. And that's the thing is for I think it needs to be natural in
Mhm.
everything that we do. You know.
Right.
Yes,
Definitely.
definitely. Now, of course, you said a little bit about it, but your your additional layer of foundation is from your four beautiful daughters that you are raising while running a business. And I definitely understand. I am a single mom. I have one, and I give all the blessings to you for four.
I feel like
And
one is the same as four.
but you're doing that plus running your business, and you're doing so much within the community. How have you found balance between growing your business and taking care of Ohana?
I don't separate them.
Mm,
Again, it's really it's so hard to explain. One day I will figure it out. Um, I don't separate them. So right, I have four daughters, two which I have raised on my own. Two are out of the house,
mm.
so it's a little easier now.
Yeah.
Two are out of the house. Two are in college.
Yes.
Uh, uh, One is getting her master's right now in psychology. The other one has a bachelor's in environmental science. And then I have two daughters at home, and they're older. So my youngest child is 10.
Mhm,
My other one just turned 15 yesterday. It gets easier. So my biggest thing that I've recognized as a single parent trying to raise all four of these girls, and we all crazy because they think their mother, you know. Uh, I will say it gets easier as I've gotten older. Like they've calmed down, so have I, and life is great. But I look at my house as a team. This is a team. I am not higher than you, and I am not below you, which means we are all equal,
mm.
which also means we are all capable, which
Yes.
also means there is no, oh, when you turn 16, this is going to happen. When you turn 18, this is going to happen. That's a Western mindset. The second that you can get up and do something, you are part of this family. And it's an honor to
Right.
be a part of the team.
Mm, mhm.
And so that has really helped in making the family function and the house function. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect.
Yes.
Trust me. Who I was with my two older girls, the mother I was when I was with my two older girls, it was when I was much younger. So they got the no instructions on how to raise a child, mom. I'm gonna raise you like I was raised because I didn't die. Right? The two younger ones, they get a little, I'm more patient, more understanding, more compassionate. Um, and and I look back and wish I was that person for my older ones too. But I
Mm,
also recognize that was my time to figure out, and I want to apologize to them that I took that away from them because I
mm,
didn't know who I was.
mm,
Mm.
mm.
And I was still searching, and I left you when I was still trying to figure me out.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't leave them, but you know what I mean. So,
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like mentally, emotionally, I was
exactly.
emotionally disconnected from my children, my two
Mhm.
older ones.
Mm.
And then when I got to know who the heck I was much more emotionally connected to these ones, but
Yes.
not emotionally dependent.
Mhm.
That's the
Yes.
difference. And so so I segue into the idea that we just started on 501c3. It's called Ho'aka Mana. Ho'aka Mana means to strike with intention. And the
Mm.
way we created this nonprofit is to help Indigenous single parents to have um, health and well-being in the home.
Mhm.
Why did I do that? Well, it was driven from the fact that I didn't have all the resources. We as brown people, we as darker people, we as lower minority people did not have the same resources as everybody else,
Yes.
and we didn't know where to go. Then on top of the fact that you're broken, nobody wants you. So while you're getting devalued from exterior, you've already got devalued interior because something didn't work. You know, that's what this nonprofit is for. It's to help find the resources, uh, simple stuff. How to find Department of Health. Go get sign up for EBT. You need help with Section 8. Let's get you set. Don't be afraid to you. Do not feel above
Mm.
to get help,
Yes.
because that will be your stepping stone. What you need to do is not be dependent upon it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because I had state help. And I am very, very grateful. I was left at that time, I had 3 kids. I was divorced. I was left with 3 kids, all the bills and the rent. And I was a stay at home mom. I had to go out and find 3 jobs and go and get food stamps.
Mm.
And I busted my butt to do it. So, why is there no separation when I start my businesses? Is because this is a necessity for our livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
I have to. I'm not going to teach my kids to sit at home and just let stuff be entitled to them.
Right.
Mhm.
I have to show them my struggles and I have to show them my successes, because that's the only way they're going to get function. And I have to get them involved.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Ho'aka Mana, which is our nonprofit, is to help parents and do indigenous healing.
Mhm.
Get into your culture. Part of your essence is your self identity. The sooner you find out who the heck you are,
Yes.
the quicker things are going to come into your life, and the easier
Mm-hmm.
the hard things are going to roll off.
Mhm.
Some of us have to learn the hard way. I'm one of them. Yeah. Tell me I cannot do it, and I will
Show you.
smash it.
Yes.
Put me on the side and give me nothing and tell me survive. I'll be here longer than you.
Mm.
Yes.
I've been to the darkest of darks. I fell 100,000 times. Okay, maybe not that much, but I fell many, many times.
Right.
And I've slept on church benches. I've been homeless. I've been around drugs. I've been around weapons. I've been around gangs. I've been around killings. I've been through a lot of stuff. I had to raise myself. So what we don't want to do is have people have to experience the really junk stuff
Mm-hmm.
to
Mhm.
really appreciate the good stuff.
Yes.
Let's bypass the bullshit and
Mhm.
let's get you to where you need to succeed.
Right.
Mhm.
And let's make whatever's happened to you now the worst thing. Because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it can get worse. But do you
Yes.
really want that? No.
Mhm.
Let this be the worst. So all you have now is to rise,
Right.
rise, rise.
Yeah.
So, um, this is the reason why we do the talks, the Monobomb
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
Mhm.
This is the reason
Yes.
why we did the 451. We're trying to help people avoid
Yes.
more trauma,
Mhm.
unnecessary trauma.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Let's fix what we already got instead of add more trauma to our lives.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I love everything you just said. I mean, you preached You preached. But I love the fact that a lot, whether you're a single, you come from a single um, parent home or have a full home, the fact that you realize that parents have to apologize to their little
Mhm.
ones, especially when it impacts them and may have caused trauma for them that will affect them as an adult. So the fact you recognize that, and then you're using everything that you went through to help others is I can't even express it. I'm just yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, just listening to you talk is like really touching my now,
yes.
like, oh my gosh, yes, I love you.
Yes, very much.
No, yeah, and I mean, I second what Dana said, right? It's so important for us to learn about our own shortcomings, be
Yes.
aware of them, and take the steps to like be better, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but just being aware of them and like intentionally, like you said, strike with intention
Yes.
and be intentional about all of the actions that you take. That is so
Hmm.
important.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back a little bit to Molokai. To those outside of Hawaii, right, who are not from Hawaii, who maybe they haven't even been there, Molokai is one of the lesser known islands of the
Hmm.
Hawaiian chain. What are some unique aspects of Molokai that our listeners should know about, particularly as it pertains to our Hawaiian culture?
Uh, that's great to know that Molokai is the lesser of the known. I think most of us, as family and generations that come from here, is we do not want this island to
To be known.
We don't.
basically.
Yes, I
We
agree.
don't want it to quickly change. We understand that change is inevitable,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but because Molokai is still, uh, it's a little bit more in the sense still family based
Hmm.
communities. We still have a little control of how quick the change happens. We can't
Hmm.
stop change, but what has happened in the past with all these other things that we've observed, right? Too quick of a change can make you can't sometimes you can't go back.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You can't go back. So if you're gonna make change, make smart change.
Right.
And so Molokai is we have a model. I think it's an adopted model since just recently, but it's visit, spend, and then go home.
Yeah. That's
That
what
was
they
my
need to
dad's
do
motto.
for all the islands.
That is our model here. And yeah. Uh, and here's the interesting part. So I do work with Hawaii Tourism Authority. I do work with HVCB, which is the Visitors Association Bureau. I've worked with the county regarding tourism. And the reason for that is because I fight against tourism in that manner. I find balance in the fact like and many will agree with me and many will disagree with me, but I if they're gonna come, let's educate them.
Yes.
And so we can still have a little control of how that moves. Because right now the state has control. We think we have control, and we do have control, but
Hmm.
we don't have the capacity that the state has. So if we're
Yes.
gonna work, we have to almost it's under duress, basically. You gotta
Hmm.
go in and you gotta, so it's been interesting. And I will say at every meeting who's promoting tourism, no, that's not what Molokai wants. And so somebody has to be in there. And that's how I feel that Kuleana is. And I even went to London for London Fashion Week to present there for PoMahina Designs, and I made it a point to meet with the Hawaii Tourism Authority in London, their
Hmm.
office, to sit down and talk and have the same conversation. It had nothing to do with anything other than the fact that now I have a voice out there in another country and I get to talk to their tourism marketing team. I'm going to tell you over here too. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it is a responsibility. It's not just about me. It's not just about PoMahina blowing up. Like my work behind the scenes is just as important as what people wear.
Hmm.
And so Molokai is, we still have the old homes, we still have the old families. There's generations upon generations still here on the same land. My grandparents live right up the street. I was raised on this street. My daughters are raised on this street.
Mhm.
And this is our ahupua, our land section, for the past few generations. And so, if I tell anybody about Molokai, yeah, one, stay on the road. Do not go off on the, what did they call it? The beaten
Off
path.
beaten path.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't go off over there, because you know what? We don't need to go find you, and don't put our families in danger having to go search for you. Pay attention, listen, observe. There's more reciprocal respect when somebody comes humble.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're like, oh, and we've gone through this. Oh, we want to walk this trail. That trail is dangerous, and that is for families to go through. That is not just for the natural tour. Oh no, we saw it online, so we can go through it. And I've been on trails. I've done trails all over the world. Yeah, so that's what the last person said, who got into an accident. They couldn't find him, and they found his body. Like, we need to be very conscious. Every place is different, and we cannot walk into it as if we know.
Yes.
And that should be our mentality across the board. Doesn't matter if it's Molokai, if I come into your home, or if I go into the next state or the next island. So really connecting with the people is important.
Yes.
Really connecting to the people is important.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, we want to embrace, and people may find us a little harsh a lot of the times. If you can understand, it's not necessarily you, it's historical trauma.
Yes.
So if you can understand it's not you, then you have to come in a different way, because whatever you're doing is triggering the same consistent cycle that we've seen over and over and over again. So, it's good to inquire. It's good to research, do your homework. And if you come in humble and with aloha, you are embraced. You leave with a family attached to Molokai most times. So we're not that harsh. But at the end of the day, we also recognize our lands are being bought by other people, not from here.
Yes.
And what land left are we gonna have for our grandchildren and their grandchildren? So we have to save some of it for later. We don't have to eat it all right now.
Right.
Exactly.
That's a good way to put it.
And in fact, you brought up earlier mentioning about you being invited to participate in London's Fashion Week to share your designs with a global audience through your business and what was that experience like? And how did it feel to represent Hawaiian culture on such a prominent stage?
Nerve-wracking. I felt like I was going to be judged by everybody, and you have that side of you, right? But really, I recognize that it was an opportunity, and I'm not saying not just an opportunity for PoMahina to be featured. We were, and we were the closing show. We closed we were the last and the biggest show, and we did a live through the news here on Hawaii while we were there. It was an opportunity to educate people. And so we talked about Mauna Kea, we chanted, we sang, and then we made sure that we shared about like where we were at with Mauna Kea at the time. And we also shared about tourism. Again, we're not about the gaudy flowers and the hibiscus that's like, those are adornments. Those are adornments for however, but we're not this, we're not pineapples. We're not, the bright colors that you find, shirts that you find at ABC store. We're more than that, and so that was an opportunity to really educate in a way of our own authenticity. And I believe so how usually the designer comes out and everybody's just like, yay. I went out and I danced out yeah,
Mm.
and because it wasn't about me, it was about us.
Mm-hmm.
And why miss the opportunity when you got all these eyes watching you
Mm-hmm.
to make a difference? I could have just went and shared my clothes and be like, okay, everybody spend money so I can go home and shop and be rich. And yeah, no, it actually went there with the intention to recognize I had an opportunity to have more eyes and ears watch.
Mm.
So there was a platform for me to share.
Yes.
And why miss that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the culture part was not necessarily, describing, the elements on our pieces. It was
Mhm.
talking about the whole gamut.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's a
Yeah.
cool experience.
No, yeah, I remember when it was live, and I watched part of it, and it was amazing. Congratulations again to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Um, so yeah, I mean, we've seen you that you do so much, and we talked a little bit about the balance part. Um, what do you feel has been the biggest challenge for you as a Kanaka business owner and creator?
Well, one being on Molokai. Mm, if anybody doesn't know, Molokai is uh, fairly in the center of Hawaii. It is 32 miles long, 10 miles wide. We do not have chain stores here. We don't have malls. We don't have the Walmarts or McDonald's. We don't have a stoplight. Like our resources are very slim. Everything comes on the barge, um, or on a plane. Uh, so that would probably be my first challenge is, the resources and how do we become resourceful with what we have. As a Kanaka, what I recognize is as a doing wearable arts as a Kanaka and as a woman.
Mm,
It's been very, very interesting because I don't know if we're looked at in the same way.
Mm.
Although, see, this is the hard part. I can't really say because I know myself well enough to already feel the intention and be like, I'm good. I'm going to go over here.
mm-hmm.
Mahalo, So I don't even get myself into those spaces. Um, I know that with when we talk about going into like expansion beyond Hawaiian waters, yeah, yeah, you're you're not heard. You're not heard. So it's not been a big thing for me to force something where it doesn't want to be.
Mm.
But I will find ways around it.
Yes.
I will find ways. I will find ways around it. So yeah, I don't know if I could. I probably have a lot, but I right now I don't know why I can't think of anything. But I think because I just stay in my lane, I do my thing, and I
Mm-hmm.
know who I am, and that's enough. Enough for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you talked about your challenges, and of course, you talked about all the stuff that helped build that foundation for you for raising your daughters. But what mistakes did you make in pursuit of where you are today, and what did you learn from those mistakes to make you into a better person?
Ooh, that's a long list.
Top
Oh
three.
gosh,
Go with the top 3.
like that's a long list. Honestly, yeah, I think fixing myself as a person, like myself first, helps everything else that I can put upon it. Right? If I'm not good, I can't do anything good. Period. Bottom line. I mean, I truly believe in that. I'm gonna segue back before I continue that statement because I just recognized I didn't answer all of that question that you had, Moana, regarding like the new designs.
Mm-hmm.
So I still hold on to traditional practice. One, I will not touch your clothing or your piece if I am not in good space.
Mm-hmm.
And don't worry, I will make myself in good space. I know how to ground myself and find my center real quick. But I also recognize I'm not perfect and those moments happen.
Mhm.
So I will never infuse mana that is not yours into it.
Mhm.
Two, with new designs, it only comes in dreams. It only comes in dreams. I don't ask for it. I don't pray for it. I don't beg for it. I just keep going on with life. There was one that happened the other night. I was in the middle of Kanainai, and as soon as I was done with my Kanainai, my pule, this thing came, the design just shot in front of me, and I went, whoa. I said, okay, I see you. All right, I'll work on it. And that's all, and carried on with my day. That's how they come. That's how they come. But back to the challenges. One being is self-worth. Self-worth was a big one for me for a very long time, maybe even up until recently. Part of it is I was raised by my grandparents. My parents got a divorce when I was very young. I was used by both parents against each other. So when I didn't do something that one parent didn't like, it was my fault, not the other parent. It was my fault. So I held a lot of burden, their burden upon me. And I wish that for no parent to do to their children. And then as I got older, my grandmother couldn't handle, we were alphas. My grandma and I are alphas. And I just like my grandma, but we're alphas. She couldn't handle. So if I answered back that day, I was on a flight out to another island. So I had self-worth issues. Oh, nobody wants me. All growing up. Like when I was older, I had to, I pretty much raised myself. I moved to New Mexico. I went to visit my mother. My mother's husband hits me. So of course I hit him back. So she called the police. And then I was, what do you call it? TRO. And I was still, what, 16? So I was stubborn. I was stubborn. I was like, oh yeah, you don't want me and I can't stay here. I have nowhere else to go. Got on the next Greyhound bus and I went down to New Mexico. Put myself through school. Finished, actually got into trouble there, finished school in 29 Palms, California. Ended up from there going to San Jose, finding 2 jobs, working. That time I slept on the bench at a church. Was there. Times I've witnessed people get shot. Was right there. And you watch it, you go back to sleep. It was normalized. And so I grew up with this very like, nobody wants me, but you know what? I want me and I'm going to keep going. And I got pregnant. So moving forward, I ended up getting married, having more children, and then I got a divorce. So one of my biggest challenges in life was seeing my worth, seeing why. Why do these things keep happening? Why do they keep showing up?
Yes.
What's wrong with me? You know? I used to get called fat and ugly. Oh, from my grandparents, from my mom, from my family members. Oh man, does that do wonders when you hear it more than one time from several people?
Yeah.
And you hold on to that. So if there's a challenge that I've had to progress and go through, it was my self-worth.
Yes.
And when the day I woke up, and I tell you this, it wasn't not until recently. The day I woke up, I went, no, you no can hurt me. Call me whatever name you want.
Yes.
I can look at you. I can look at you now and go, that's all you got? Heard that one before. Oh, all the lies, this, all this, shit talking you want. That's all you got? Honey, I've been through enough. That doesn't affect me anymore.
Yeah.
I see your MO. And so the day that I finally woke up, things shifted. Things change. And so that's what we do in Ho'amana. That practice, the one-on-ones,
Yes.
we ignite. We don't empower. Because, honey, you are the power.
Yes.
We ignite. So, yeah. So that one challenge made all these other challenges up into that point. But it's pretty common challenge we all have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean it's a testament to your resiliency and your ability
Yes.
to not let it, keep you down, right? I see that
Yes.
a lot in people now, like lots of complaining, lots of it's everybody else's fault, right? But nobody really wanting to take accountability for their
Mm-hmm.
part in it and how they need
Yes.
to improve at least their part, right? Like when I find myself getting too far into that space, I try to bring myself back and be like, okay,
Yes.
in this situation, what is the thing that I can control?
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I cannot control, let me not stress out over that, right? Let me just fix what
Exactly.
I can and keep it moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's beautiful and it's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the solution based mentality.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like we all get problems, but it doesn't mean that we can't overcome them. Might not be the outcome that we want every time, and most of the time it isn't. But the more important thing is to overcome it and seek to do better with the next time, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
one of my biggest things that I share, because I teach students, right, in substance abuse, and I teach them a mini version of ho'akamana.
Hmm.
Sorry, of ho'akamana. And, or sorry, of ho'amana. Oh, I mean, my names. I teach them a mini version of ho'amana. And so I tell them, and I tell the people who fund us, the state, the universities, what do you do with these kids? And I'm like, oh, self identity. And I say, I never teach to create perfect people. All I do is give you the tool sets that you can get into the most worst spaces and you know how to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Because the worst spaces, you're not entitled or privileged to the fact that you have superpowers and nothing's going to happen to you.
Hmm.
So the best thing I can give you are the tools you need to get out of it
Mm-hmm.
quicker than most.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I love it. Love that. Now, we're coming up to the end, so I think this one is going to be the last question. But I really like this one because, as everyone probably knows by now, May is Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Month. Um, and we've seen companies like Netflix create special categories for like media and film that fall into like this broad category of AAPI stories. Um, but as much as like I'm supportive of all different communities, when it comes to this month, the Pacific Islander part of the equation is still mealy mealy, very
Yes.
minuscule in comparison to like the Asian American content. How can we encourage more Kanaka to engage and share their stories and projects with a broader audience? I mean, because that's one of the things we want to do with the podcast, right? Like bring more of the Pacific Islander perspective. Um, who would you recommend that we try to engage with and help have them come onto the show so that we can share their mana'o?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I have a long list of that. I'll have to send that to you behind closed doors.
Yes, please.
I think one of the biggest things we have to recognize, again, because of historical trauma, we're very guarded,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? We're very guarded in what we share. We know that while we're still in the middle of the Pacific, things are working. Not necessarily how we want them to, but it's not at the chaos as if we were to bring it into like bigger realms. Like we've prioritized what we want to deal with. Um, but that historical trauma of sharing is a big deal. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys recently seen that went viral, which is the Ho'oponopono video where two women who are not Hawaiian
Oh
were
yes.
singing Ho'oponopono, Ho'oponopono, Ho'o, it means I love you, means forgive me, and all this other stuff. While they were sitting there with like a Native American drum, Hindu markings or jewelry. I'm
Yeah.
unfamiliar with all of those, but other people were pointing these different cultures out within that one space. And there are people out there who will capitalize and sell all this information and get
Yeah.
paid for it. Now, I don't know if they're just selling BS so that they don't get our secrets and they have that mindset, or they just don't know and they're just doing it. I don't know. But because there is such this fear of appropriation,
Mm-hmm.
and then having to fix the appropriation after the, we just don't.
Right.
So, I think the more that we see strong people who are not afraid and are very, very clear in how they share their story, will inspire others to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So what you're doing, that work, what you're doing is maikai, it's polole. And I say that, and we'll give you a list, probably behind closed doors. I don't want to
Yeah,
throw
yeah.
anybody under the bus right now.
For sure.
But these are the people who are not afraid,
Mhm.
who are not afraid to share their story and can share it clearly
Mm-hmm.
with essence. And they're also not afraid to get ridiculed or judged. Those are the ones you want to have.
Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah, I really, because I cannot help it. Like wherever I go, I'm like, where's the Pacific Islanders though? I feel you, but where's the
Mhm.
Pacific Islanders? I don't see it in the equation enough, and we need to change that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And yeah, me and Moana talks about it all the time. We usually have to make sure there's some representation somewhere of at least Pacific Islanders. It's like everything we usually see, it's like there's no representation or you know, at all most of the time that we see. And
mm-hmm.
we're starting to see a little bit with, finding Ohana on Netflix. You had Moana through Disney, even though it didn't give from the lens of an actual native, but it started giving us our foot in the door, similar like with Asian Americans. They slowly got their foot in the door with little things, but we're I'm hoping that in the next few years we'll be a bigger presence as as we're getting that exposure that we so needed to people to start understanding the culture better.
Yeah.
I think that the one advice I would give um, our indigenous people, the Pacific Islanders, is every opportunity you have, take. Every
Mhm.
moment that you get a time to share, make it meaningful.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Every moment that you are allotted a space to be present in,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
uh, we shy away too quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to cannot complain. You
Right.
Yeah.
know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I used to be like that too. Like shying
Same.
away from stuff. But I'm just like, man, come
Mhm.
on. Like, who's gonna do it if you're not gonna do them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It takes a lot for all of us to undo that mindset that's been established for generations. Because just like Moana, it's taken me a long time, like to get. We're so used to stay humble, stay behind the scenes, don't make a scene, don't stand out too much.
Mm-hmm.
You're given those constantly growing up that you're like, all right, I must stay behind the scenes. But it's like, yeah, we have to take those opportunities because no one's going to learn about us if we don't
We don't.
finally speak up.
Right.
Somebody else will tell your story.
Yes, and it won't be
Yes.
right.
Exactly.
Yes. We're gonna be upset. So you might as well
Yes.
just.
You can avoid all of it. Yeah.
That's right. You gotta walk up out of that bugger.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh, alrighty. Well, that was such a beautiful show, Kanoe.
Yes.
Like, I'm so glad we finally got a chance to talk story. I'm
Mhm.
grateful to Lehua and the ALA Ohana over here
Mm.
for introducing us.
Yes.
Kanoe did a fashion show out here in DC, and it was held at the New
Oh.
Zealand Embassy, which is beautiful. I had to do my Tita walk, and Kanoe, it was so hilarious because she was like, Sister, like, we're not pounding the ground. And I'm like, I know, but that's how I walk.
Is that
She
the
ain't
word toe to
lying. She
walk?
ain't lying.
But it was so good fun, like it was great because we had like all shapes and sizes and ages,
Mm,
and
beautiful.
it was really true to her her pico. So mahalo
Mm,
again for that opportunity, and mahalo for being a part of
yes.
the show.
Yes, definitely.
So before we end though, where can people follow you online, check out your Manabombs podcast and check out your beautiful clothing.
Yes.
Just go ahead. There's the link or the handle for Instagram, PoMahina Designs. It's one word. And then you can also visit PoMahinaDesigns.com. We just released our Air Natural Botanicals medicines. And so we'll have Native Hawaiian fern medicine on there. And these are for emotional balance. We have everything. These are made by Pohala. Ohana of mine. His name is Keone, and he lives on Maui. Everything is gathered with protocol chant. And it's made, again, he's like me. We don't do anything without good mana, period. Because it comes back to us.
Yeah,
That's our responsibility. So we don't do that. So there's fern medicine on there for simple things like simplicity, rhythm, glee, tenderness, grace. Discipline is my favorite one, which is palapalai. And I will never give anything that I've not tried myself. So over a year, every day, 2 to 3 times a day, I would put fern medicine in my waters. And when I recognized it worked, that's when I said, okay, now it's time to share it. So I will never, ever, 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 ever do anything I haven't tried myself. Maile, you want, if you guys know what maile smells like, we have maile. Oils. I use this daily on my body. And my skin is just, I cannot even express. You got stretch marks, girl? It will help. It will help.
Okay, I'm coming after this.
Exactly. Same. Me and Moana's gonna be all on your site.
Yeah, so that's all in there. That's a new product that we have, and we'll be having a Father's Day special soon for our Aloha wear.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, guys, definitely check out her clothing line and her new products. I'm excited to hear that.
Yes,
the clothing line is beautiful. It's comfortable. I have multiple different styles. I was actually just wearing my dress. I meant to put it back on today before this, but I was running late from work, so kalamai. But yeah, definitely check out the clothing line. It's beautiful. And mahalo to our listeners for tuning in, whether you're live or on the replay. We really enjoy it. We hope you guys enjoyed today's mo'olelo or story from Kanoi. And please also check us out on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Subscribe to our channel. And we also have our podcast on all the different podcast platforms: Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, and Amazon. So check it out. Check out Manabombs as well. And Kanoi, do you wanna ole us out? Do you usually do that? Or?
Oh, you're gonna let me? Yes.
Yes.
Please.
Okay, let me think of a good one for all of us. Okay. So we called in. Well, I got to call in and introduce my kupuna, my islands, and everybody here, and I want to send them home.
Okay.
And also want to recognize the many that came before us. So I'll do a really quick one. I'm gonna actually do Kiniakiakua. So if you know Kiniakiakua, please join me. And the reason why I'm doing this as a closeout is we are not here without all of them. Let us never, ever, ever forget that. And we honor them.
Yes.
Kini akiakua, lehu akiakua, mano akiakua, puku akiakua, lalani akua, palikpo, puke ike au, no kau pula pula. Kini akiakua, lehu akiakua, mano akiakua, puku akiakua, lalani akua, palikpo, puke ike au, no kau pula pula. Kini akiakua, lehu akiakua, mano akiakua, puku akiakua, lalani akiakua. Pale ika po, puka ike au, no kau pula pula. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Alrighty, guys. Take care. Malama pono, malama kokino. And we'll see you guys soon. Join us in 20 minutes for our next, we have a panel tonight, Asian Solidarity in Black Lives Matter. Mahalo nui, malama pono, a hui ho. Are we off?
No, we're still live.